I'm going to say something that's going to be uncomfortable. The ceiling on everything you're leading, you put it there. Not your team, not the market, not the timing. You. And I know that's not what you want to hear because most of us have a pretty solid case built for why it's something else. Man, I had one too. 4 years. I remember walking by the river one morning. The sun was up, should have been a good day, but I was grinding through the same frustration I'd been carrying for months, replaying every reason things weren't moving. The people who weren't showing up, the circumstances that weren't cooperating. I had a whole case built, and I believed every word of it. But then something stopped me cold in my tracks. Not a voice, just a thought. Quiet, direct, and it landed like a gut punch. The reason it's not growing is because you stopped growing. Now I stood there and I knew it was true. Here's what made it different from just conviction. It meant the ceiling wasn't fixed. If I put it there, I could raise it up, but only if I understood exactly how it got there in the first place. That's what I want to show you, because until you see the mechanism, you'll keep working harder on all the wrong things. Here's what we've all been taught about leadership, that it flows outward. You lead your team, you lead your business, you lead your family. And when things stop moving, when the results dry up, when the people around you plateau, we do what we've been trained to do. We look out for the reason. Now, here's why that is so dangerous. There's always something out there to point to. Always. The team isn't bought in. The resources aren't there. Someone else had a head start. I watched this happen twice in my life. Talked about buying a rental property for years and had these excuses. The timing wasn't right. The margin wasn't there. I had all these reasons. Then a family member, they got tired of waiting for the right moment and they just did it. Then I was talking about getting my real estate license. Same thing. Another family member didn't talk about it. They just went out and got it. Same conversations, same ideas. They were all coming out of my mouth for years. And I watched two people in my own family turn and make my talking into their doing. Now, that is a hard thing to sit with. And I spent too long asking the wrong question. Why is it working for them and not for me? Maybe you've asked that question too, and it feels like the right question because it's logical, it makes sense to us. But it's the question that keeps your eyes pointed in the wrong direction. The moment I stopped asking why they were moving and started asking what I had stopped doing, and I saw it. But seeing isn't enough. You have to understand what's underneath it, and that's what most people never get to. So here's what's actually happening. You don't have a leadership problem, you have a growth cap. And a growth cap is exactly what it sounds like. The moment you stop growing personally, you put a cap on everything you're connected to. Your team, your results, the people closest to you, all of it. Think about it like a river. A river doesn't try to flow. It flows because there's a source behind it. The moment the source stops, it doesn't matter how wide that channel is, doesn't matter how good everything looks from the outside. If there's no source, there's no flow. You are the source. And here's the thing about the growth cap that makes it so hard to catch. It doesn't announce itself. It's quiet. You don't feel it until days after it's already happened. You feel it 6 months later when you look up and you realize nothing around you has moved. Your team has hit a ceiling. Your results have plateaued. The people closest to you, they haven't been challenged by you in months. And none of it is their fault. They can only go where you've already been. They can only reach what you're still reaching for. The moment you stopped becoming, they stopped moving. Not because they quit, but because the source dried up. That thought by the river, man, it wrecked me. Because I had been pouring everything into the output, the strategy, the team, the execution, while completely ignoring the source. But here's the thing. Once you see the growth cap, you can raise it. And I want to show you exactly how. 3 steps. They're in order. And I need you to stay with me to step 2 because that's the one that actually changes things permanently. Step 1, you gotta identify what's capping your growth. Before you can raise it, you have to be honest about where it is, where you're at in your journey. Most of us are so locked into managing results that we never stop and ask, where have I personally stopped growing? So here's what I want you to do. Grab a piece of paper. Write down everything in your life that feels stagnant right now. Your finances, maybe. Your health, your relationships, your faith, your leadership, whatever area it is, write it down. Where have I stopped growing? You gotta identify it. Then ask one question about each. If it's your finances, where have you stopped growing in your finances? Are you not investing? Are you not watching where your money goes? Things like that. Get specific so you can understand where your growth cap is in every area of your life. You need to ask, when did I last deliberately invest in growing here in this place? That gap right there, that's your growth cap. That's the ceiling. And you can't raise what you haven't identified. So step 1, you gotta get honest with yourself. But honesty without movement, oh man, that is just pain. That's where step 2 comes in. The step that I want you to take next is this. You got to feed the source every single day. Not weekly, not when things slow down and you finally have margin, not when you feel like it, but every day. This is the one thing that changed everything for me. I started feeding the source. I picked up a book, not because I was motivated. I picked it up because I had run out of excuses. And it cracked something open that I hadn't felt in a long time. Now, I'm not telling you which book to read, but I am telling you it has to be something. It has to be daily. 20 minutes of reading, a podcast on the drive, a real conversation with someone who is further down the road than you. Because here's what you're actually doing when you do that every day. You're sending a message to every part of your identity that says, I'm still becoming. And that message, repeated daily, starts to change what you actually produce. Now, here's where this is different from every other growth conversation you've heard. The goal isn't to accumulate more information. The goal is to let it change who you are becoming. And who you are becoming will always change what you do. Every time you learn something, you ask yourself one question. What's one thing I'll do differently this week because of this information? That question has to be the bridge between knowing and actually becoming. Now let's move on to step 3. And most people skip this one entirely. Here it is. Lead yourself in public. Start letting the people around you see you grow. Talk about what you're eating. Share what's shifting in you. Not to perform it, but because when the people you're trying to lead actually see that you're doing work on yourself, something changes in the room. they stop waiting for permission to grow. They start growing because you're growing. You become the evidence that it's possible to raise the growth gap. And that is the most powerful leadership move you will ever make. It's not a strategy, it's not a better system. You still becoming in front of the people who are watching. Now, I stood by that river feeling like I was behind. Years of showing up, and the one thing I hadn't been protecting was the source. The people succeeding around you are not more gifted than you. They haven't been handed something that you weren't. They just never stopped feeding the source when it got hard. They kept becoming quietly, daily, without an audience. And everything connected to them kept rising because of it. Listen, you're not a failed leader. You are a leader with a growth cap. And now you know exactly where it is. So identify it tonight, not this week, tonight. One honest look at where you stopped growing. One decision to feed the source again. The ceiling isn't fixed. It just stopped moving when you stopped growing. So start moving again. And when you do, I need you to be ready, because what happens next is something most leaders never see coming. And when it hits, it will make you question everything you just decided. That's exactly what this next video is about. I'll see you there.